welcome back to my channel. Today we have decided to visit the Heritage Historical Park Village. This is the second largest living historical museum in Canada, and we are completely blessed to have this right here in Calgary, easily accessible through public transit.
The Heritage Historical Park exhibits the span of Western Canada from the 1860s to 1950s. The park is divided into four distinct areas reflecting the different time periods, which are the settlement, the ranch, village center, and heritage square. Staffs dress in historical costumes and antique automobiles and horse-drawn vehicles service the site. We started off with PreRailway Historical Village. Most of the buildings are historical over here and they were transported into the park to be placed on display. In late 1860s, American free traders manufactured goods and whiskey to Aboriginal people in exchange for buffalo robes. I.G. Baker and Company were then sold to Hudson Bay Company, and they are the ones who took over the whole trading business. Now we are entering into Hudson Bay Fort, where they did trading and packaging. The Englishmen did trading with First Nations, where the First Nations traded in beaver and muskrat furs for rifles, ammunition, and the famous Hudson Bay blankets. The English would use beaver fur to make fancy beaver hats, which was very popular in England. This section shows the packaging of the fur after it was traded in from the First Nations. Now we are moving on to the Great House, which shows the lodging of Englishmen while they were trading with the First Nations. This side shows the lodging of a manager who is staying in a far better section compared to the working class, has a proper bed and also ceramic pots. Now the other section, which is the working class, is just very basic, and you can see that they don't have proper beds, and at least 5 to 7 men would stay in this room together, and they just had the basic amenities. Now we are moving on to the second part of the historical village, which is known as the ranch. Between 1880 and 1914, many immigrants were moving into Western Canada, and they started building something known as sod shacks as their first prairie homes. This is known as a sod shack over here, and it only costed about $5. A soddy was warm in winter, cool in summer, and fireproof, so it was perfect condition for an immigrant to use this house. This specific part is known as Burnside Ranch House, where most of Alberta's ranches were mixed farms that successfully combined grain and livestock operations. In addition to this, Clydesdale horses were bred and sold. They also ran vast herds of cattle on thousands of acres of open range, leased from the Crown. Owned by wealthy Canadian and British investors, these ranches were run by resident managers who relied on many hired hands. We are now moving on to the third part of the park, which is known as the village center. This area represents the early 1900s, known as the Railway Brewery Town. It shows a working smithery, club cafes, various hotels, and restaurants around town. We also got to witness the security elevator, which was used to weigh and store wheat. The farmers used to sell the wheat, and this elevator was used to weigh the wheat and grade them in different classes, and use the elevator to establish the classes of wheat. And when they were sold, this was also portable, so they would be transported into the train through pipes. One of the main attractions of this village is the passenger train. This is drawn by one of the park's two working steam locomotives that takes visitors around that park. There was a lineup for this train, and because of COVID, they are not taking as many passengers around the train, and they are maintaining social distancing as well as hand sanitizing before and after the ride. We all were required to sanitize our hands while we were getting on this train, and this train basically gives you the 1800s vibe of transporting back to the past. This runs around thrice throughout the park, and it is included in the ticket. Moving on to the printers, which were built in 1910. The printers are normally working, but due to COVID, all the printers are right now stopped and they are not showing any live demonstrations. The gentleman was explaining us how the letters were locked into a grid and they were transported into the machines for printing. The first Calgary Herald newspaper were printed using these printers. Moving on to the last bit of the village, which is known as the Heritage Square. This Heritage Square represents between 1920s to 1950s, and it shows a gasoline alley museum showcasing the park's extensive collection of antique cars. It also shows the different oil companies that has been used in North America and the different car companies that are also in business since the 1900s. The tickets costed us about $19, and we did have to book them online before coming to this park. And if you are a historic buff like us, I definitely do recommend you to visit this park, as you will learn a lot about Western Canada and the history of Canada in depth.
Our visit to Heritage Park Historical Village has been an absolute eye-opener, and we got to learn a lot about the history of Western Canada. Definitely looking forward to go back again. It was really wonderful, and I recommend it for you guys, especially those who are into history and would love to know more about Canada. So if you've liked my video, don't forget to give the thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you're new. I hope to see you guys in my next video. Till then, bye.